When a royal in the kingdom of Fauna turned 13, the goddess traditionally gave them a unique gift. But one prince was less fortunate. Before the important event in Farnia Castle's courtyard, he got no gift. This shows Theodore Forn, the third Prince of Air. He was in a vigorous sparring match with his maid. For simplicity, call him Theo. Each blow from his maid hit harder, forcing him to fall back. Lila, the maid nicknamed Stain, served as his personal attendant. Finally, Theo collapsed from fatigue, and Layla ended the session, saying he needed to rest for the gift confirmation ceremony that evening. Theo's face lit up as he praised Layla and admired her exceptional talents. A master swordswoman, an excellent cook, skilled at household chores, an S-class adventurer, well-versed in etiquette, and an ideal woman in every way. Layla thanked Theo for his compliments and offered her hand to help him stand, but he hadn't taken it yet. An enormous wave surged toward him. Layla pulled Theo to safety, just in time to avoid getting soaked. Niels Florian, the second Prince of Fornia, staged the whole spectacle and arrived to present his magic in young Theo. Smirking, Niels told his younger brother that every royal receives a divine gift at 13 and wondered why Theo kept training in the courtyard. Confused by Niels' taunts, the Odin immediately understood what Niels meant when he grandly summoned a huge fireball. Showing off his magical skill arrogantly, he mocked Theo's sword practice, saying those powers made it pointless. And note that a royal's gift reflected their character, eagerly awaiting Theo's probably worthless gift. After his display, Niels sonared off, eager for the ceremony. Annoyed by his brother's jabs, Theo clenches his fists. Layla quickly comforted Theo, held him in a warm embrace, and said that if Niels' words about gifts reflecting personality were true, the O would certainly receive an extraordinary gift. Her encouragement lifted the O's spirits and gave him hope for the ceremony. That night, the royal family gathered in court. The Aphased faced harsh criticism for not receiving any divine blessing. Relatives, angry and confused, questioned his right to the throne because nothing like this had happened before. Fear and worry showed on Theo's face. Things got worse when Neil burst into mocking laughter. Amused tears glistened in his eyes. King Goss, the fourth ruler of Fornia, quickly silenced the kneelers and spoke sternly, questioning whether he intended to disgrace him. Goss announced that any son the goddess rejected did not belong in the castle and that Thea was no longer welcome. Niels quickly urged his father to carry out the plan they had discussed. King Gauss made his final decision for declaring Theo the Lord of the Land of Death. Her appearance stunned everyone at the ceremony and prompted whispers throughout the crowd. Theo tried to dispute his father's ruling, but the king dismissed him. The Land of Death was a barren, toxic wasteland where no plants could grow and fierce creatures prowled. This was no place for people, and Theo couldn't understand why his father sent him there. The king cut him off before he could argue further, calling him a useless failure. The harsh words struck her deeply. His father made clear that disobeying the king was forbidden, and Theo was ordered to pack his things and leave at once for the Land of Death. The ruling amounted to banishment from the kingdom. His brother Niels witnesses Jur's moment, laughing in Theo's face and bragging about his preparations to become the next king, while Theo fights to survive in the desolate region. Helpless and defeated, Theo had no choice but to accept his bleak destiny. The next day his carriage set off. As it moved away, he gave a final wave to his family and friends. His handsome father and self-absorbed brother were not there, though. Settling back into the carriage, he noticed Layla was gone. He wished he could have said goodbye to her, and just then her voice called out that she was right there. Deep in thought, Theoden reacted first. Layla sat across from him, and he was surprised and asked why she was there. Layla calmly said she would always stand by his side. He reminded her he was heading to the Land of Death and urged her not to risk her life. A little annoyed, Layla reaffirmed her duty as his personal maid, pledging to follow him even into the depths of hell. Theo asked if she was sure, and she nodded firmly, clearly without doubt. He thanked her for joining him, and Layla said she was glad to have some time with him. They kept up light conversation as the carriage moved on. They noted that reaching the Land of Death would take several days and require changing carriages. Theo felt anxious about the trip. Layla's presence reassured him. One question still troubled him. What kept him from receiving the goddess's gift? He wondered if he didn't really belong in this world. He recalls his past life as a regular office worker. Trapped in a draining routine like many others, he worked long hours that often stretched into the night. It can spill into his home life, making every day feel repetitive. Sometimes he missed the civilization-building game he loved as a student, but work left no time for hobbies, and he reflected that adulthood was hard. One day, his exhausted body collapsed. He woke in a strange place where a smiling goddess greeted him and welcomed him into the divine realm. Vesta, who is God, introduced herself and softly revealed the startling truth that Theo had died. Theo's first reaction was utter disbelief as her words sank in. The goddess expressed condolences for his death before moving to the main point. She asked whether he wanted to be reborn into another world. Noting the gods had their own complicated motives, she told him not to ask why and sweetened the offer. They promised him a unique ability if he chose reincarnation. The idea of a power sparked memories of a game he loved, where building things felt effortless because he was in an unfamiliar world. He wanted the ability to craft. As a student, he described a game he enjoyed and asked for the same crafting power it had. Vesta granted his wish instantly. Looking back, Theo wondered whether he wasn't given a gift at the ceremony because he already had that ability. Being a reincarnated prince, he had never made anything, so he forgot about it. Leyland nudged the awake, announces their arrival. He opened his eyes and froze, mortified to realize he'd been resting on her lap. Layla said calmly there was no need to be embarrassed because he had fallen there himself. Wanting to enjoy his resting face a little longer, she pointed to the impatient coachman. Annoyed, the coachman could not wait all day while they lingered in his carriage. It quickly emerged, facing the bleak land of death. Not expecting anyone, Theo noted how desolate it looked. He wondered if they'd have to rest outside in the cold. Layla reassured him not to worry. She joked she could keep him warm with her body heat if needed, but Theo doubted that would be enough in a place like this and brushed off the idea. Layla felt a little hurt, and Theo, slightly unnerved, realized she was serious. Turning away, she told herself that even though she had missed this chance to get closer, there would be other opportunities to win him over. The O decided the first step would be to build a shelter. Remembering his crafting skill, he grinned, eager to use it at last. He asked Layla to cut down the nearby trees. Swiftly, she sliced through them with her sword, leaving behind piles of logs. Impressed by her strength, Theo said it was no surprise for a former adventurer. Leela asked what he'd do with the logs, and Theo said he planned to build a house. They collected the logs. Theo moved up to the pile and activated his ability. He was unsure how to use it, since he hadn't practiced recently and had never built anything as large as a house. He visualized the house's structure and stability. The logs started moving on their own. Within moments, a complete house stood before them. Astonished, Leela questioned his power and Oxplain had given him the ability from the start, so he did not receive a gift at the ceremony. Layla beamed with pride and hugged her master tightly. His face pressed into her chest by accident, and as he struggled to breathe and mumbled, she apologized, saying her excitement had gotten the better of her. They went in. They were astonished by the immaculate wood and stone interior of the house, which left Layla in wonder. Entering the cot room, Theo saw the cot frame had no mattress and realized he needed materials to make anything. Layla offered her clothes instead. Using his auto-craft ability, Theo quickly set up a comfortable cot. That solution created a new problem. Layla was left partly soaked in a thin nightgown. Rushing toward Theo, she approached him while he tried to keep his distance. She insisted on staying nearby to keep him safe, even pinning him against the wall. In time, the relented. They shared the cot, though he soon stood up, uneasy about how close she was, even though he tried to avoid it. Theo ended up back and was caught with Layla, having no other option. Their first day in the land of the dead ended. Theo remembered how Layla and his crafting skills kept him alive. Her presence made him feel safe. That night, their house suddenly began to shake. Investigating outside, Theo saw a minotaur charging toward him. The club is raised to strike. He lunged to pull them out of harm's way just as it swung, and the club hit the ground. With her sword drawn, she prepared to fight the beast, furious that it had spoiled her perfect honeymoon with Prince Theo. Layla was determined to fight the creature. Theo worried briefly for her, but remembered her strength because he had seen her beat similar monsters before. What bothered him most was how helpless he felt and that he always had to rely on her in dangerous situations. The determinative act requires the auto Layla to step back. He activated his auto-craft ability. The Minotaur is charged with breaking the house down to raw wood. Picture your weapon. Within moments, he crafted a giant wooden drop axe. Surprising the creature, Theo slammed the massive axe down like a falling star. It crushed the minotaur beneath it and killed it. Exhilarated, Theo realized everything had exceeded his expectations. After reflecting on his exile from the capital and his past uncertainty, he now felt a clear sense of direction. Layla rushed to him, holding him tight and commending his exceptional skills. Right then, Theo knew he'd found his true calling and felt excited about the possibilities. In this desolate land, being able to craft anything from materials made him feel like he was living in the game he loved as a student. Turning to Layla, he said he had found his purpose. Curious, she asked what he meant. Theo confidently said he would use his powers to restore the barren land, turn the land of death into life. The Fornia Kingdom's northern frontier. Theo faced his first morning in the land of death. This was made possible by the home they built. The owner had to plan his next steps for the new day. In the kitchen, he discovered Layla had prepared an extravagant breakfast and pushed it into such a barren place. The first bite filled Theo's taste buds with delight. Layla apologized, explaining the meal wasn't lavish because she used only the castle's supplies. She offered him her share if he was still hungry. Theo knew their rations would not last long. Addressing the food shortage was his priority. When Layla proposed starting a farm, Theo agreed, believing a steady food supply would attract settlers to the barren land. Once they finished breakfast, they went outside to start work. Theo's enthusiasm faded quickly when he saw why this was happening. That place was called the Land of Death. The soil was completely unsuitable for farming. Layla spread a rumor that an old disaster had poisoned the soil with toxic gases, and the kingdom's attempts to restore it had failed. Unfazed, Theo activated his auto-craft ability. Make a stone hoe from a stick and a stone to loosen the soil. Working together, they prepared a field. They added fertilizer after loosening the soil. With the day's work done, they could only hope it would support the crops later. Exhausted, the Orsted rests its head on the dining table. I was surprised by how hard farming was. He thought about going to the bathroom. Layla warned the water was tainted by toxic air, so they had to conserve their limited supply. Beyond food and monster threats, the O must now secure clean water. He realized the Land of Death had a fitting name. That night, Theo slept on the cot with Layla. As usual, he stood up when she came too close. She was already fast asleep, even though only moments had passed since they lay down. He knew she deserved rest after waking early, cooking, and working harder on the farm than he did. You feel inadequate compared to Layla. It was clear he needed to improve. Determined to outwork, he went to rest. While falling, Theo was transported back to the place he had visited after his first death. Shocked, he feared he'd died again. God had possessed the suddenly calmed him and explained she had summoned only his consciousness. Bowing, she apologized sincerely for the chaos that her refusal to give him a gift at 13 led to his exile in the barren lands. To be clear, she said that because she had auto-craft, she couldn't give another skill. She warned that too many gifts could make a person's heart burst and cause bodily fluids to explode. She kept saying she was sorry. Theo told her to calm down. Express gratitude for his thrilling gift. Moved by his kindness, God has visited someone who was nearly in tears, and tried to hold him close. Uncomfortable with the goddess's ample bosom, Theo quickly assumed a guarded stance. Suddenly, the god stops and remembers something important. She held up a metal bar and said it was god metal infused with divine power. Although such items were forbidden in the mortal realm, she chose to give it to him. Curious, the host asked if she was sure he could keep such a precious item. The goddess hushed him, insisting on silence since he was her favorite and this gift was only for him. She gave him a bonus by kissing his cheek, leaving Theo flustered. Before leaving, she called the gift a small blessing and urged him to use it wisely. Wishing him luck, she promised she would always support him. Top groomer Theo walking cot delivers, as expected. Unsure if it was a dream. Keisha's vividness felt undeniable. Something suddenly moved under his blanket. He lifted the sheets off his legs. He found Layla, the second groomer, possibly exploring something. Quickly, he asked what she was doing. She said she felt something hard and wanted to check it. At first confused, the ogre felt embarrassed when he realized he might be aroused. He said it was a normal physical reaction. The key object, however, was the god nettle bar. Layla asked about it, and Theochlorophite said it was a gift from the goddess. Layla then shared bad news outside. The OAS were stunned to see the soil they had worked on become barren again. Farming in this hopeless land seemed impossible to him. Set the result aside until needed again. Recommend they try new fertilizers and continue testing. Although Theo said his efforts felt futile, remembering his promise to work harder restored his determination. He picked up the hoe and told Layla to rest. Seeing she had worked all day yesterday, he knew it was his turn. He advised her to practice swordsmanship. Constant reminders did nothing. Their priority was finding the right fertilizer, but he admitted he didn't know much about the soil. A system window warned that the land of death soil was E rank, the lowest quality, and could not grow crops without divine purification. While O studied the window, Layla's gaze showed she could not see it. I'm not sure why the soil data appeared. Remembering the goddess's keech, he recognized it as her divine blessing. Aware of which crops would best purify the soil, he resumed work. Not sure how to purify it, he took out the divine-ranked God metal bar. A material crafted by God that filled tools with divine blessings. Theo came up with a plan. Theo took the stick off his hoe. Merge it with the God metal. He crafted a divine hoe. Although it had a strange name, applying it to the soil produced a dazzling light. At first, everything looked the same. When he checked the soil in the status window, he saw it had become divine soil. The divine blessing meant anyone on that purified soil would have the goddess's favor and could grow thriving crops. The O'Griens celebrated widely with a joyful dance. Shouting to Layla, he said the sacred hoe could purify the soil. This allowed them to finally plant crops. Layla jumped toward Huckin to congratulate him on his success. To her surprise, the elite above her did so effortlessly. Though bold, Layla was embarrassed by his agility. Theo credited Layla and the goddess with his newfound usefulness. Tears of joy filled his eyes as he thanked her. Layla, overcome by emotion, reached her limit. Her head felt like it exploded. This moment marked their success in making the fields fertile. Afterward, Vester relaxed in the bath and watched Theo through her crystal ball. Another goddess, Athena, appeared to question Vestus's fixation on Theo. Vester replied that Theo's cleverness showed when he turned the god metal into a tool to purify the toxic land. Athena shrugged and boasted that her hero was better than Theo. Vesta teased Athena, who always chose cute girls as heroes, seemed like a lulakin. Athena said she couldn't help her heroes being cute and didn't want to be called Shodakin like Vesta. During their playful argument, Athena acknowledged Theo's worth and said she felt a connection to her cute hero. Cut the connection but stayed glued to her crystal ball. The previous night, Theo read documents about the kingdom's attempts to reclaim the land. The documents showed the noxious air stayed on the surface, so areas deeper underground should be safe. That suggested the subsurface water was probably safe to drink. Theo crafted built an underground well and then tested it. The system confirmed the water was classified as C rank and was of good quality. Raising their glasses as if toasting with wine, they drank the water. After securing water, they needed to finish tilling the soil, plant the seeds, and water them to grow crops. However, plowing that much land felt overwhelming. Worn out by Theocalib's mid-task, Layla brought in water. Urging him to rest, she continued on alone with the horde. Theo reminded her of the time she fainted from working too hard, and he knew the explosion wasn't just caused by exhaustion. He insisted that she rest. He warned firmly that overworking was risky. Quietly, he recalled dying from overwork himself. Layla felt the weight of his words. Theo still didn't know how to tell everyone in the land. And wanted a tractor. They did not have the materials to make one. Layla overheard and suggested getting help or using cattle, admitting she knew little about tractors. Her plan made sense. Nobody would settle in that barren place, and they couldn't bring cattle. Layla proposed using OUIS Autocraft to create cattle, similar to the human transmutation in Fullmetal Alchemist. Theo was terrified and admitted he was too afraid to try because he didn't know what would happen, and Layla quickly said she was only joking, though Theo noticed she sounded completely serious. Theo paused for a moment, then had a breakthrough idea. I am grateful for Layla's spark. He set out to create what they were missing. Layla asked if he meant human transmutation, and he reassured her he didn't intend that. He said he would make it obedient. A golem, he said they would need earth, stones, and a magic stone, which held power taken from monsters and was used to make weapons, magical items, or as a source of energy. Unable to provide them, Layla grew sad, and to make up for it began undressing. Theo reminded her that they had a magic stone from the monster they'd defeated. After gathering stones and materials, Theo applies auto-craftability to create a golem. Stones fuse together, and a giant stone figure comes to life. Layla was amazed by Theo's creation and felt deep pride in him. Theo gave the command to go, and when it heard him, it rushed forward. A sudden charge startled Theo. Instead of attacking, the golem lifted him onto its shoulder like a parent lifting a child. Layla stepped in to defend Theo, but he told her the gong posed no threat. Layla resents the golem's affection for Theo. They argued it might have emotions despite others claiming it did not. She suggested his unusual crafting method might have given it feelings. The OS switched to work mode and instructed the golem to till the soil. He grabbed a hoe and worked astonishingly fast. Soon they tilled the land, and by afternoon planted seeds in the watered soil. While Theo and Layla ate dinner, the golem rested. O felt content is excited about the months ahead. The next morning, they woke to find all their crops had grown overnight. Even out-of-season vegetables have thrived. The Ohadin family expected such a quick harvest. The food supply problem has been resolved. Thanks to the blessed soil, we enjoyed abundant crops overnight. Interested in their taste, Layla ran tests for side effects. The system window confirmed the crops were top quality with no harm detected. They open into one. A burst of flavor filled his mouth. It was the juiciest, most delicious thing he tasted. He wondered whether the tomato was really a vegetable. Tossing one to Layla, he praised its incredible taste. She tried it and was thrilled by the flavor. Convinced they'd be even better cooked, Seal began preparing a meal. Inside, Layla cooked with amazing speed. Quickly prepare a variety of delicious dishes. Their first bites tasted like paradise. Intense, fresh flavors left them speechless for minutes as they absorbed the experience. Prepared with perfect ingredients and skill, the dishes were extraordinary. After resolving the harvest problem, Theo stepped outside to tackle the next task. He called his Gallum Gorm to check if it had gathered the materials. Gorm motioned to the pile of rocks and logs it had gathered. Layla asked about the Gaul's name, curious. Theo explained he tried calling it Gorm, and it seemed to enjoy the name. Reviewing the materials, Layla asked about his building plans. Piecing it together, she wondered whether he intended to build a separate house to live apart from her. Theo had considered that, but water was now available. He focused on finding a place to rest and recover. Using his auto-craft ability, he built an outdoor hot spring modeled after a traditional Japanese inn. This set includes bubbly soap and a body sponge made from various materials, fulfilling a long-held desire. He set up separate areas for men and women, rushed to the men's side, and told Layla to join him later after their baths, while Layla stayed silent as they left for the baths. Before soaking, they planned to clean. When Layla offered to wash him, Theo agreed and they paused. They stared at each other. Theo's suddenly panicked. Pointing out they were in the men's section, Layla argued there was no need for gender-separated baths. Bold as ever, she insisted she was his maid and that it was her duty to serve him fully. She leaned closer and said he could not clean himself properly, which flustered Theo. He demanded she leave him alone. Layla refused to obey him, even as his servant. After he challenged their master-serving dynamic, Layla asked whether reasonable physical contact between them was wrong. Theo insisted her actions were far from reasonable. Layla prevailed in the end and washed him thoroughly. They relaxed in the hot spring as the night settled. When Layla commented on the beauty of the stars, Theo smiled. It struck him that he would never have seen a view like this in his past life or in the capital. I am grateful for the luxury of the barren lands. They were not completely alone. On a cliff stands a figure with pointed ears and a long furry tail. Washed by the hot spring steam and intrigued, a fox shirl lingered at a site rare for humans in this land. Theo stuck to a routine of getting up early to practice sword fighting with Layla. After training, he worked the fields diligently, harvesting vegetables from messy soil and never slacking until he was caught. Every night he and Layla read a cherished moment together that helped him reflect and plan. In the land of death, Theo lived a steady, fulfilling life. One worry remained: he could not attract citizens to his growing town. A comfortable life wasn't his ultimate aim. Even counting Gorm as a citizen, the town was 2 residents short of being a village. Normally, anyone in his domain would become a citizen, but not in the land of death. He hoped the wanderers would arrive by chance. Theo heard faint sounds coming from the fields. It sparked a brief excitement that someone might have stumbled onto his land. At first excited, Theo quickly became afraid when he faced a massive beast. but he sensed a strange, divine aura from it that recalled the goddess's presence. Puzzled, Theo heard the beast speak, telling him not to be afraid, which only increased his terror because he was not used to a talking monster. The beast called herself Luna, a divine Fenrir wolf. Fenrir's name stirs Theo's memory of tales about a god-powered giant wolf rarely seen by anyone. Intimidated, Theo doubted he could fight such a formidable creature. Luna asked whether he had missed her telling him not to fear, repeating that she wasn't there to fight. Suddenly she became a stunning woman, leaving Theo briefly shocked. Apologizing for the surprise, the wolf lady said she had a request for him. She asked whether he could spare some vegetables. To my surprise, she showed up just for that and sensed no hostility. Theo agreed, noted they had plenty, and invited her to take some. I gave her a tomato, and after tasting it, a wave of divine bliss washed over her. The flavor melted in her mouth and filled her with joy. She said she hadn't tasted anything that delicious in a millennium. 1,000 years ago, the land had clean air and grew good crops, though not as exceptional as Theo's. A devastating war had left it a poisoned wasteland. Theo was shocked to learn the toxic air came from a war, not a natural disaster. Curious, he asked if she had lived in the land of death for 1,000 years. She nodded. The O suggested she consider moving elsewhere. Luna said calmly that the land was for a cherished home. Despite its desolation, she couldn't leave it. She was pleased that Theo had returned it to its former beauty. She asked his name and learned he was Theoflorian, and offered heartfelt thanks for his kindness and the meal. He needed no reward from the Theon's sister. Luna refused to accept that her pain and kindness were essential to who she was, and she leaned in. Quiche has a gentle forehead. She offered the defender a favor, a token of thanks, the only thing she could give for now. After a comforting pat, she said how long it had been since she last felt that kind of joy. When Luna began to leave, Theo remembered her 1,000-year stay in the land of death and had an idea. He called out and asked if she would consider becoming a citizen of his domain. Luna looked back, surprised, then teased him with a playful grin. When asked if he intended to tame a Fenrir, Theo quickly denied it. Laughing, Luna patted his head and said it was a joke. Luna said she needed time to decide because she had personal matters to handle and Theo's offer was unexpected. Smiling warmly, she promised a better gift at their next meeting. Telling him to expect it, Thea Blues withdrew from the interaction as Luna reverted to her wolf form. She gave him one last goodbye before disappearing into the distance. Theo kept his meeting with Luna's secret from Layla, worried she would be jealous of another woman talking to him and unsure how she would react. To Theo, the next day felt ordinary. Staying unaware would disrupt his tranquil life. A weary, desperate woman suddenly appeared, pleading for help and then collapsing. Theo quickly instructed Layla to get the first aid kit. After a while, the women were in woken Theo's room. Disoriented and unsure of her location, she asked where she was. Theo went to see if she was conscious. Asked how she was feeling. She said she was all right but still disoriented. When she asked who they were, Theo introduced himself and Layla, saying she made it famous outside his home. Grateful, Aisha and the women expressed joy at meeting them. Theo asked why she had come. Remember that excessive fear can cause intense head pain. Theo urged her to get some rest. He told Layla to fetch the healing herbs from the castle. Renowned for powerful medicinal properties, ideal for treating injuries. Turning them into potent remedies took great skill. But Theo's auto-craftability let him make effective healing medicine with ease. Aisha watched in amazement as a potion appeared in Theo's hands. The moment she drank it, her wounds healed. Pain fades as if the injuries never happened. Astonished by the potion's power, Aisha asked whether Theo was a wizard or an alchemist, and Theo casually said either label fit. She asked if they were close to Fornis, a fortress city defending against the monsters of the land of death. The euclarified Fornis stood miles from the land of death's border in shocking Asia. The Enotted confirmed her fears, and she hadn't realized how far she'd strayed into this desolate region. Asha felt crushed when she realized she had gone the wrong way and didn't know what to do next. Panic rose as she thought about the people depending on her and feared they would not survive without quick action. Hesha said she was from Mo village in Veto territory. A few days ago, goblins attacked, and the defenseless villagers were easy prey. Goblins demanded food and kept asking for more. After villagers protested that they would starve, the goblins made an even worse demand. They demanded every one of the women. Goblins could breathe alongside humans, resulting in obvious dire consequences. When the villagers refuse, the goblins threaten to kill them one by one. I should have taken the lead to find help for her people. When Theo asked why she went after foreigners instead of Ido's lord, she said she had already tried that. The lord brushed off Aisha's plea, saying he had no time for a remote village. Thera remembered the lord of Batoa's cruel rule, the heavy taxes, and how he ignored people's suffering, even during a famine when they needed help. Knowing her people needed help, I should get ready to leave. She thanked Theo for his care. As she turned, Theo stopped her and told her to wait. He showed her a warehouse stocked with construction materials and supplies, proud he'd planned ahead for emergencies. Layla recognized the stockpile, but was unsure of Theo's intentions. Theo told her to watch as he activated a new sub-ability of his autocrat that mimicked a video game inventory system. A single wave of the hand sent all the materials into an invisible space. Completely empty the warehouse. Stunned, Asha asked where the items had gone. Theo said it was like magic. He kept it in a personal dimension he created. He asked her to lead them to her village, resolved to help despite the long journey. Later, Theo, Layla, and Isha rode Gorm toward Moay village. Hesha doubted Theo's certainty about his choice and, determined to save the village, warned him of the dangers. The Ostid firm urged her to trust him. Not shaken by the goblin threat, a surge of bravery filled him. He recalled Luna's Fenrir favor and used his analysis ability to test its effects and see if it had boosted his courage. The stats showed Fenrir's favor gave increased leg strength, fear that overcame willpower, and a bond with wolf-like creatures that made them submit to him. Bolstered, Theo quietly thanked Luna for giving him courage. A sharp pinpoint feeling in the head. Theo was outraged to see the goblins tormented villagers. On the verge of losing his composure, he ordered Gorm to charge the goblins. He told Layla and Asha to get ready to jump off Gorm on his signal. They jumped at the OSQ. Gorm crashed into the goblins like a wrecking ball, scattering several. Gorm charged in like a wrestler storming the ring. In midair, Theo used autocraft to make a soft landing pad. They landed safely, with Theo awkwardly caught between Layla and Aisha. Trapped between their curves, Theo flustered Aisha, who moved away quickly and embarrassed. Goblins swarmed them, ready to strike. Theo told Aisha to stay back because he thought it was too risky for her. Theo reassured her despite her protests, confident they could save the villagers. His steady determination made Aisha's heart race. A flush crossed her face, leaving her flustered by her reaction to someone younger, suggesting a new dynamic. Theo and Layla stand ready to face the goblins. Layla drew her sword while Theo activated Autocrat to summon his inventory. Thousands of swords materialized around him, channeling the legendary aura of Gilgamesh. Layla cut through the goblins with precise strikes. Together with Theo, they defeated the horde, turned the area into a battlefield scattered with fallen monsters. Terrified and overpowered, the surviving goblins fled to report to their leader. Lee moved to chase them, but Theo held her back and insisted protecting the villagers had to come first. Relieved, the villagers approached Theo to thank him for rescuing them, and asked him who he was. Theo truthfully introduced himself as the third prince of the Fornicate Kingdom and the lord of the land of death. Aisha and the villagers were stunned and uneasy. Theo regretted his bluntness, realizing the villagers probably distrusted royals and nobles and wished he had kept his title secret. The villagers were thrilled to learn he was a prince, which surprised him. They thanked him profusely for rescuing them. Theodown expressed their gratitude. After overhearing the goblins say they would report to their leader, he urged everyone to stay alert. They suggested that their den was hidden in the forest. Meanwhile, at the goblins' den, the fleeing goblins told their chief they had failed. The goblins warned their leader the village was too risky to attack. Rage, the Goblin King, struck down a goblin with one swing and called him a coward for fleeing. Ordering the remaining goblins to follow, he vowed to teach the humans their place. Back in the village, Chief Galagmobil thanked Theo warmly for saving them. Theo dismissed it, saying he had only done what was right. The chief insisted on giving a gift. One stone. Layla was astonished. Explained it was a rare, durable metal used to make treasures worth hundreds of gold coins. A villager angrily confronted the chief for offering a precious heirloom, the village's generational treasure, accusing him of giving it to the damned royals. Chief Gallagher sharply rebuked the young man. They insisted Theo deserved respect for saving them. The man insisted that royals would not risk their lives for commoners. Theo had hidden motives for rallying the other villagers to agree. Villagers murmured, remained divided, and clearly distrusted the nobles. Theo saw's unease and Ashan Jervine defending him. She reminded them that Theo was not like their territorial lord and had saved them even though he was a stranger. Her words are meant to ease the tension. Although the villagers acknowledged Theo's heroism, the young man's point lingered. Chief Galad insisted on giving Theo the gift, but Theo declined, saying it was their treasure. The chief revealed the village was facing collapse. Curious, Theo asked why the chief had foreseen such a grim fate. The chief described a goblin king in the nearby forest, much stronger and smarter than ordinary goblins. Rupert defeats minotaurs or giants. He thought the escaped goblins would come back with the goblin king. He urged the young villagers to flee while the elderly, too frail to escape, stayed behind. Jack refused the chief's order and insisted they all escape together. The chief said the elderly would slow the young. Jack stood his ground and vowed to defeat the goblins himself rather than abandon anyone. Theo offered to help and promised that no one would be left behind. Aisha and the chief asked about the strategy. He said goblins were watching the village, so escape was impossible. They prepared to confront them in battle by fortifying the village. Later, Jack sat alone, frustrated and distrustful of Theo, convinced the royal had secret motives. He remembered his father's words that strong men protect the village. Jack believed he would take on that role and grow, without needing someone royal like Theo. At that moment, Theo Eston surprises Jack by instantly crafting a watchtower. It left him speechless. Theo requested more materials because his current stock was insufficient. The chief let him dismantle farming tools or houses, and villagers offered materials from their worn homes to defend the village. Jack still resisted trusting Theo because it was foolish. Instead, Theo uses magic to build protective walls around the village. The anicaps was exhausted from crafting. Layla worried, urged, and got dressed, noting he had overused his abilities. Permanently fused, he was determined to protect the village with all his strength. His resolve began to shift because of you or him, though only slightly. Jack remembered freezing in fear during the goblin attack. They could not protect the village during the fight. Having saved everyone, he pushed himself to shield them again. Moved Jack to approach the company. He asked how he could help defend the village. Theo crafted a spear and gave it to Jack, aware of his reputation as the village's best fighter. He said everyone would rely on him if the defenses failed. Jack took the spear but made clear he still did not trust Theo and was acting only for the village's sake. Jack was cold, but Theo still thanked him, and Jack made clear he had no friendly intentions. Theo saw Esha watching and asked if something was wrong. Startled, she denied staring and said he was not in her view. She then reported that the children and the elderly were evacuated and asked how she could help. With the villagers' help, Theo assured her everything was under control. Called by the villagers, he waved goodbye to Aisha and hurried away. Standing alone, Aisha clearly had feelings for Theo. Loud footsteps from the forest broke the moment. The Goblin King led his army forward, ready to massacre the villagers, scoffing at his minions' fear of the small village. Seeing an opening, he planned to harass the villagers and capture their women for breeding. He lost confidence when he saw the transformed village. The villagers armed themselves with bows, arrows, and spears. A fortified wall and a watchtower protect it and make the Goblin King nervous. They demanded the goblins retreat. They promised there would be no harm if they left quietly. They were warned of an immediate attack if they advanced. Seething at being underestimated, the Goblin King commanded his minions to charge. Left with no choice, Theo signaled the villagers to attack. A massive force crushed the frontline goblins. Surviving goblins tremble and tracked the attack to the watchtower. They stood where smoke rose from the cannons. He launched a war against the goblins. More cannon fire destroyed additional enemies. Some goblins reached the walls and climbed furiously, but villagers at the top strike them with spears. A theorized tactic. Theo praised the villagers, boosting their morale so they could repel the invaders. As the enraged Goblin King, taken aback by the resistance, he slashes at the ground with his sword. It unleashed a shockwave that shattered part of the wall and toppled the watchtower. Layla grabbed Theo's ephel. He made a cushion to save the other villagers. He ordered everyone to take shelter, and they ran to safety. After watching the battle, the Goblin King singled out Theo as the leader directing the defense. They believed removing him would end the fight. Layla drew her sword and vowed the Goblin King would face her before he reached Theo, despite his initial dismissal of her as insignificant. The Goblin King realized she was Theo's main ally. Arrogantly, he made a pass at Layla, admiring her strength and beauty. She firmly rejected him, saying she was loyal to someone else. Furious at her rejection, he thought her feelings would change if the man she loved were killed. He ordered his minions to capture her without injuring her face. Enraged, Layla demanded who he planned to kill. She unleashes her family's sword technique and slices the approaching goblins into pieces. Charging the Dovland King, she prepared another move. A goblin grabbed her before she could strike. Goblins kept piling onto Layla, pinning her down. The Goblin King ordered them to hold her until they could capture her. Then turned toward Theo. Layla broke free and cut down the goblins with effortless swordwork. Challenged the Goblin King to face her. He ignored her and focused on. Swarmed by more goblins, Theo is blocked from reaching the king. Seeing that the goblins' strength came from their numbers, Layla realized her mistake and charged the Goblin King. She realized he had cunningly pushed her away from Theo and that she had underestimated his intelligence. Shouting to Theo, she urged him to retreat. He reassured him that Gorm could shield him from the Goblin King's attacks. She offered to distract the monster, but Thea declined. They argued that a retreat would endanger the villagers. Using his ability, he forged a sword and chose to face the Goblin King alone, who called his resolve pathetic. Theo challenged the Goblin King to prove his resolve. He pulled a huge stone block from his inventory. Effortlessly, the Goblin's cane swatted it aside. Undaunted, the OU cleared debris from the broken watchtower. Using his autocrat skill, he quickly crafts a giant ballista. He shot a bolt. The goblin effortlessly caught it with his hands. The Goblin King taunted asked if their games were over, tired of the twang with the children. He raised his sword and demanded Thea die. Thea recognized the magical slash. A shockwave attack tore up the ground as the blade descended. The Goblin King thought the fight ended anticlimactically. He felt something behind him and was confused. He was sure he kicked the O. Still, Theo stood above, his sword raised to strike. The O had taken a gamble. Use autocraft to raise a 5-block earth platform beneath him, dodging the Goblin King's attack that targeted the blocks. Leaping over the distracted Goblin King gave him the chance to strike back. Feeling confident, Theo was ready to demonstrate his training with Layla. After learning a technique from Layla, the awestruck struck back at the Goblin Kings. The sword shattered. It left no mark on the monster's tough skin. The Goblin King kicked the confused Theo, sending him hurtling into a tree like a kicked ball. The Goblin King gave the O a sarcastic compliment for briefly startling him, recommending a sharper blade. Wounded, Theo forced himself up for another fight. The Goblin came ready to crush in, then stopped and declared checkmate. Jack rushed in suddenly, shouting, "Use a spear to push the Goblin Kings back," which broke and alarmed Jack. Theo hears a surprise. Ask why Jack joined the fight. Jack said the retreating frontliners told him Layla was overpowering the goblins. But Theo stood alone against the Goblin King. Thea said Jack shouldn't have come, but Jack replied that she would have died without him. Furious, the Goblin King called Jack a Murupon. Raising his sword, he moved to kill him. Theo stepped in to shield Jack from the Goblin King's strike. The Goblin King notices a human's soft heart. It revealed that Theo had always been his real target. Too late, Theo realized he could not dodge. His earlier trick wouldn't work this time. Luna, the familiar Fenrir woman, patted Theo's on the back, offering to help her. Her Fenrir favor skill activated, giving Theo's legs a sudden burst of power. He dodged the Goblin King's sword slash with newfound speed, taking the monster by surprise. The Goblin King showed no concern for Theo's blunt sword. Theo wondered how his next move would go, remembering Chief Galad's gift of the rare, tough metal chalcom, the village's treasure. Using autocraft, he forged it into a sharp sword, leaving Jack astonished. They recalled the chief calling the metal their guardian deity, meant to protect them in times of need. Chief Gilad's words are true as Theo wields the Orchalcom sword and uses Layla's family technique. The Goblin King was wounded, shocking Jack as the monster collapsed with a thud. Exhausted, Theo realized he had won and fainted. Caught by Jack, who spoke highly of him. Jack said, "Theo, please, you had done well too." They give each other a fist bump. They went to the shelter, at the spot where Theo said it was safe. Overjoyed, Esha hugged the other person, who was crying hard. Layla paused before intervening. Isha cried while Theo comforted her. They said it was over, leaving Layfelt jealous. That night, the villagers raised their glasses to Theo's victory. He ended up awkwardly pressed against Asia's chase. People were wondering how it happened. Layla glared in deliberate ways, unnerving Nisha, who accused her of intimidation. Layla pulled Theo away and offered her food. Aisha countered with her own, starting a quiet rivalry. The chief laughed at their energy and at Theo when he asked for help. He wouldn't ruin their fun. The village's joy was obvious, thanks to Theo. Jokingly, he wished their lord would watch over them every day. Feeling inspired, Theo excused himself, crafted a step stool, and climbed it to speak to the villagers, directly inviting them to join him as citizens of the land of death he ruled. They paused, aware of its reputation. Theo said his power was reclaiming it, and he needed their help. Jack agreed with enthusiasm. He challenged the doubters to stay behind, despite his own initial skepticism. Aisha joined the chief as well, encouraging honesty. More villagers raised their hands, cheering for Theo. Their new lord gave them another reason to celebrate. The villagers kept celebrating with drinks until late the next morning. Theo led the group with wagon-compatible items and the elderly in his inventory, and tasked Gorm to pull the wagon. After half a day of trekking, they reached Theo's barren domain. A single house stands in an empty field. Sensing the group's unease, the oak did, removing the homes of retreating villagers from his inventory. Use autocraft to assemble them, the plan he and Layla had made for their settlement. He built temporary houses and planned to upgrade them later, quickly creating a village. Aisha was like a maze. Layla said it matched the O's vision perfectly. Theo fainted from the strain of building so fast. Waking up in his house, it was clear his stamina needed improvement. Aisha, I'm ready and fit now. Someone comes in to check on him and flusters Theo. Lael said she was training Aisha to be a maid. People have seen her potential. She lightly smacked her for not calling Thea master, her jealousy evident. Theo told Aisha to speak casually because formality would feel odd. When he asked about the villagers, he feared they would not like their new home. But Layla pointed to the window, where Theo witnessed their lively joy. Esh's report confirmed their excitement. Relieved, Theo felt at peace, knowing his people were happy. He was considering his next steps with the new citizens. At the capital of the Fornia Kingdoms, King Goss of Skard praised the foreign hero Alice Scarlet for her latest feat. Alice dismissed it as a hero's duty. That earned the king's remark that the goddess would approve, and Alice Latz thanked him sarcastically. Sama and Martina, her companions, looked tense and later warned her to watch her words and behavior before the king. The king proposed a celebration and suggested inviting his son Theo. He hesitated, remembered their friendship, thanked Alice for putting up with Theo, and said she no longer needed to worry about him. Confused, Alice learns Theo. Deemed talentless and forsaken by the goddess, he was exiled to the land of death. Probably gone or dead, furious Alice's gripped her sword, competing to kill the king. Santa quickly cut her off, nervously saying Alice was tired to end the conversation. San refused to go to the party and dragged Alice out, giving an excuse. Outside, Alice demanded to know why Sana had stopped her. Santa called her reckless and warned that killing the king would doom them. Alice was furious about Theo's banishment, but Sana, while urging respect for the king, acknowledged Alice's concern for Theo, and Alice denied any romantic feelings, insisting Theo was not her future husband. After Theo was exiled to the land of death, Alice demanded they leave the capital. Tired of the royal family and determined to sever all ties, Neil appeared as she prepared to leave. Boasting his new title as crown prince, he dismissed Alice's goddess-blessed status, belittled her as a commoner, and demanded respect. Uninterested, Alice started to leave, but Neil stopped her and asked her to be his partner, which shocked her. He explained the first prince's disappearance and Theo's banishment, framing himself as the next king. Wanting Alice to be trusted by the people to support his rule, he claimed it spared her from endless monster battles. Alice laughed, mocked Neil's arrogance, and laid out her reasons. He questioned his right to rule, valued her role as protector, refused to marry an acknowledged fool. They would always support Theo, accusing Niels of involvement in his exile. They saw him as an enemy, just as they saw the king. Alice's words left Niels enraged, who ran to talk about Theo's popularity. Unleashing his magic, he questions Theo's worth. Stunned, Martina realized the full scale of Neil's magical power. Alice asked whether this was his gift. Niels boasted about his great wisdom. They claim limitless magic and elemental control and say it is unmatched. Alice sneered at his inflated ego. When he demanded submission, he unleashes a deadly jigger fire spell. Alice sliced through the fireball with ease, pointing out Niels' lack of training. She knocked him out with a hard blow before he could react, sending him tumbling. Niels is furious and has threatened retribution after a prince was attacked. But Alice delegated the task to Martina, whose side Alice's impulsiveness still healed Niels instantly. Alice taunted Niels by asking what she had done, and he vowed revenge. She pressed him to admit he had been rejected and defeated by a journal. Push him to his limit. Neil vowed to leave Alice and Theo in despair, while Alice smiled and promised to remember his threat. Then lead Sana and Martina out, determined to find Ciela immediately. Theo used autocraft to make farming tools. Finishing their field work, the grateful farmers thanked him for his help. Theo brushed off their thanks and wished them well, and asked Layla if there were any tasks left. Layla said the village waterways needed fixing. Isha arrived with a basket and announced the requested freshly made sandwiches, enough for all the field workers. Theo thanked her. They noticed the once-dead land now buzzing with life, everyone taking on roles and helping restore it. Excited, he set out to further improve the land with their support. Alarm bells rang as a village reported a giant wolf attacking. Theo immediately recognized the wolf and rushed over while his villagers armed themselves. The wolf urged them to lower their weapons, insisting she meant no harm. The Oriv joyfully confirmed that it was Luna, who felt relieved to see him after waiting. Smoke's whirled. Luna then transformed into her humanoid form. She hugged Theo tight against her chase. She said he seemed more reliable and had probably barely escaped danger. Theo admitted his struggles and asked why she had come. Surprised, Luna wondered if she had forgotten to mention her promise of a better gift at their next meeting. Theo stayed wary of her intentions during the day. He braced himself as Luna touched his chin. She leaned in to take the quiche, but was stopped before she could. Layla stepped in and blocked a sword aimed at Luna, demanding that she stay away from Theo. Luna noticed Layla's obvious hostility. Someone accused Luna of trying to steal a quiche from Theo, saying the quiche was more precious than any treasure and deserved severe punishment. Amused, Luna challenged Layla's judgment of her as a human while she acted. Theo stepped in, saying Luna was the Fenrir heat mat for Layla while she slept, but Layla recognized her as the Rupert thieving wolf. With tensions rising, they all urged Luna to explain. Luna stopped teasing and explained the keys she had. Her task was to renew Fenrir's favor, previously delivered through a four-head quiche. She explained it had to be given in small portions so it would not overwhelm Theo's body, with time to settle between portions, and that a quiche was the best way to transfer this favor. Unconvinced, Layla asked if those were Luna's final words. Theo urged her to lower her weapon, but Layla accused Luna of defiling his purity, making Luna notice Layla's jealousy. Layla denied it, blushing. She said she only protected Theo, but lunatics claim Lafayette lost Theo's first quiche, suggesting she offer him her own favor. Theo and Layla were shocked and questioned her. Luna clarified Layla could grant Theo her favor. Layla was unsure whether she could share her power, and Luna confirmed she could. Layla's earlier sword strikes exceeded normal human strength. Luna explained that a few humans blessed by the gods could give their power to others. This means Layla could share hers with the O. Luna agreed and suggested a quick lip kitch because they were both human. He urged Layla to act quickly, not caring who went first. Theo stepped in, asking why they assumed he'd kish Layla, and Luna asked whether he objected. The Estress could not act impulsively because of Layla's feelings. However, Layla was ready to quiche Theo at any time. Luna teased her eagerness while Aisha, blushing, questioned a public quiche. Theo urged Layla not to feel pressured. She sincerely asked for his affection if he was willing. Seeing Layla trembles, Theo moves after hesitating. He admitted it was his first quiche and might not be great, and Layla, also a first-timer, didn't mind. Then gently touch your cheeks, kissing her awkwardly. He's wondering if he pulled back the favorite transfer. I was confused when Layla didn't respond. A sudden shock caused her to faint. Everyone but Luna stood stunned. She laughed out loud at how funny Layla was. Luna grinned and announced it was her turn next. They needed to wait until Layla's favor settled so they wouldn't overwhelm Theo. When her plans fell through, she moved on to another matter. He called the children forward as several wolves appeared, barking as a greeting. Surprisingly, Theo asked about the wolves. Luna clarified they were Fenrir pups she wanted him to care for. It was not her own but her sister's. She teased Theo by asking if he thought she had a partner, stressing that she was single. Theo clarified said it was not his concern and agreed to care for the pups despite Luna's warnings about their rarity and possible trouble. Gently patting the pup, Theo reassured Luna he would welcome them. His quick decision surprised her. Luna, blushing, thanks Tim. Tell the pups to thank their new caretaker, Theo. The puppies wormed Theo. They licked him until he was buried in their fur. A week later, the pups will enjoy spending time with villagers, playing with children and eating during farm work. The Shah fed them, but Theo was overwhelmed by their affectionate licks. While watching, O felt a twinge of jealousy. He noticed one pup keeping to itself and hiding when he looked. Luna appeared and told a drush that the pup's shyness was a problem. She surprised Theo by appearing suddenly in a striking new outfit. Luna said she preferred wearing very little, but Theo warned that such attire wasn't suitable for the village, and with a playful smile, she teased that he might be jealous of others seeing her that way. When Theon learned about the pub's earlier condition, Luna said it was the youngest. She recounted the tragic loss of her older sister, who died shortly after giving birth. The revelation shocked Theo. Luna said the pup had never known a mother's love. Although Luna tried to fill that role, she admitted she could never truly replace the pup's mother. That left the pup timid and distant from others. The owner was understanding. Although Luna looked ready to say more, the Acutin offers to befriend the pup. Luna fell silent for a moment. Stunned by Theo's offer, he worried he had overstepped. Luna's quick smile reassured him, and she said he was the kind of person she'd been hoping to find and that she was happy to be on his land. Theodown proved his worth. Luna surprised him by bringing a firm quiche. Taken off guard, Theo fought while Luna held his chin tight. When Luna finally stepped back, a flustered Theo demanded she explain what she was doing. Casually, she explained it was her way of fulfilling a favor she'd promised earlier that they had both overlooked. Luna then asked Theo to care for the shy pup. Not sure he could help, Theo vowed to try his hardest. Odin hesitates to approach the youngest pup, even though the pup invites it to play. It kept its distance and scampered away. It didn't flee far, so he realized it wasn't truly afraid. Theo suggests a game of tag and volunteers to be hit. The puppy seemed to understand, barking then darting off playfully. Grinning, Theo chased the pup around the village. Small as it was, the Fenrir pup was surprisingly fast, identifying fennel in nature. The Agat is serious as he uses his autocrat skill. Summon an earthen wall to block its path. He reached to grab it. The pup nimbly leaped over the walls and scrambled across the rooftops. Theo kept building more walls to slow the pup. They could never catch it. Theo steadily gained ground. The pup couldn't hide its grin. An hour later, Theo was out of breath and panting heavily. The puppy paused. She barked at him, grinning and wagging her tail, clearly enjoying the chase. The Oblighted announced the real game was just beginning. The chase continued until the pup slipped off a rooftop. Theo spots the danger and quickly uses his autocraft skill to build a trampoline underneath. Fenrir favor gave him a boost, and he launched off the trampoline, catching the puppy in midair. To ensure a safe landing, he built a soft cushion. They landed without injury. Then Theo triumphantly announced he had caught the pup. Barking, the Fenrir pup pouted as if displeased. Theo wondered if the pup wanted another round. Luna appeared, glad the pup had warmed to Theo. People called him a natural fennel charmer. Theo insisted to puzzle that they'd simply become friends. Luna gave a warm smile. I watched them cuddle on the cushion shortly after. Theo played with Soak, one of the Fenrir pups, because the pups had no names. Luna asked Theo to name them all, and he was thrilled to be their godparent. Inspired, Theo also watched Layla training the villagers. During drills, she tossed them around vigorously, urging the men to improve as aspiring soldiers and growing stronger each time they fell. Theo grew uneasy about his maid's harsh behavior. Until now, the village had escaped serious harm from monsters. Only a few people approached Alayla, the soldiers, and Theo's Gorm before Gorm stopped them. O'Neill still couldn't let his guard down. Determined to protect the village, he used his autocrath skill to build strong walls around it. Eager to finish a new weapon, Theo lacked some necessary materials. That evening, after his bath, he went back to his room. Please, he built the sauna that everyone loved. It especially amused him that Gorman enjoyed it most. The villagers' joy pleased him. He had not expected the Gulm to be so fond of the sun. Later, Layla walked into Theo's room. He praised her commitment to training the villagers. Layla looked anxious as she thanked him. Theo grew as concerned. He noticed she'd been distant since quiching him and fainting. When Layla said she was sorry for that moment, that overly confident rush wasn't foolish. Layla stepped closer and said she'd been training her mind to avoid fainting again. Layla took hold of Theo and asked if she could repay the favor she'd once given him. Still confused, Theo listened as she reminded him of Luna's advice to settle small favors before offering larger ones. Noticing that Layla is trembling. Noticing her effort, Theo gently asked her to take it easy. He wanted to show he valued her feelings. Layla lost control. She said she planned to move quickly and blame Theo for what was coming. Before he could explain, Talela cached him. Overwhelmed, Theo felt her continued kisses. Gently pushed him onto the cot. All her affection went into relentless cassias. Without pausing, by the next morning, Theo felt exhausted. Brimming with energy, Layla cheerfully resumed training the villagers. Theo decided to inspect the crops in the fields. He saw a stranger asking to taste the vegetables. After tasting one, the man with animal-like ears said in French that it tasted delicious. He said the vegetables were sweet and juicy and offered to buy them. Curious about the man's approach, who paid more attention to a nearby Fenrir pup. The stranger mused aloud about the value of the pup's fur. Furious, the Akin confronted him and demanded to know what he planned to do with his friend. Also asked the man for his identity. The stranger introduced himself as Lauren from the Bastia Company. Abruptly, Lauren pulled out a hairbrush and asked for a small sample of the pup's fur. At that moment, Jack reached Gormsback and accused Lauren of trespassing. Lauren insisted he hadn't done anything wrong. Lauren said it was strange to see people farming in the land of death, which should be barren. His curiosity drove him to investigate. Gorm's presence suggested that a skilled alchemist lived there. Lauren was fascinated by the village and said he wanted to explore more. Theo suddenly trapped Lauren in a magical cage. He planned to detain him until he could determine his intentions. Lauren was surprisingly impressed and admired the cage's unique magic and texture. Seeing Gorm, the Fenrir pup, the crops, and Theo's magic, Lauren called the village a utopia and a treasure trove. He even thanked the gods for his luck. Theo grew more suspicious and began to doubt Lauren's true motives. Villagers rushed in with alarming news. 10 earth dragons were heading for the village and would arrive in 20 minutes. Theo froze. Facing a single earth dragon was hard enough. 10 at once was unheard of even in the land of death. Warren spoke up, worried the earth dragons might be after him for entering their nest. They put it together quickly. Lauren admitted the dragons might be following him. Theo froze. The intruder hadn't just trespassed in her village, but had led a group of deadly monsters right to their doorstep. Theo wondered what other problems this man could cause. Earth dragons had no wings, yet they were the sturdiest of their kind. Theo couldn't believe Lauren had attracted those beasts to their home. Warren said he didn't mean for it to happen. He said he only peeked into their nest and didn't expect them to chase him. Still, he bragged about getting the better of them, calling it a game of tag he found impressive. Theo remembered earth dragons were usually docile and used for farming or hauling loads, so it seemed strange they had left their nest to chase Lauren. Theo suspected there was more to the story than just Lauren's actions. Despite that, Lauren was ordered to stay in the cage while the village handled the dragons. Warren begged not to be left there. Meanwhile, a group of guides led the villagers to an underground shelter. The news of 10 earth dragons terrified everyone. Reassuring them, Hisha pointed out that the village's defenses were stronger than those at their previous home. Their soldiers trained rigorously every day, she added. She trusted that Theo and the others could protect the village from the walls. Preparations got underway. From a distance, Theo saw the earth dragons move into cannon range. Luna arrived to help. Theo thanked Leela and asked her to hold back for now. He thought it was too risky to send their best fighters right away. He wasn't sure how the toxic air might have made the monsters stronger. He also wanted to see if the cannons could stop them. Raising soldiers' morale. A villager yelled that the earth dragons weren't in range. Theo ordered his troops to prepare to fire at his command. Cannons roared together. He used a cannonball sword and slammed into the monsters, shaking the ground. Relief washed over Theo when they hit their mark. Still, the earth dragons preciously pushed forward undeterred. Stunned, Theo realized the beasts weren't slowed at all. He doubted their resilience. The soldiers grew anxious, worried the cannons weren't working. Even Theo felt uneasy and thought about calling Layla and Luna, but he feared their heavy armor might be too much even for them and that something unexpected could happen. Theo thought his unfinished weapon could defeat the dragons. It lacked the ultra-high-quality magical sight required to function. He'll have to harvest it from a dragon. Lauren then revealed he had the dragon majesty Theo needed. Theo was startled to see him out of the cage. Lord said his curiosity drove him to escape so he could take Theo's gong. When Theo pressed him about whether he really had the magic sight, Lauren casually showed it. He also presented a certificate to confirm its authenticity. Theo had already used his appraisal skill to confirm it was genuine. Even so, he wondered why Lauren had it. Lawrence Shear had planned to trade it to the elves for profit. Seeing Thea puzzled, Lauren mentioned rumors about elves and a northern village in the land of death. He sought them out to land a profitable deal. The village remained a myth. Lauren saw potential in investing in the village Theo called a gold mine. The card is meaningful. Lauren shared the magic site so you can watch more videos like this. Theo protected the village and accepted an exclusive deal with Lauren's Bastia company. Lauren presented his terms for the deal. He expected Theo would need time to decide, but Theo agreed right away. Seeing the magic site as the village's best chance to survive, he thought an outsider partnership could help, though he didn't fully trust Lauren. Theo saw the deal had great potential. Warren was briefly stunned. They accepted and shook Theo's hand to finalize it. He admitted he underestimated the O's decisiveness. Lauren transferred the magic site. He was amazed to see it fitted into Theo's newly completed magic cannon. Seeing the magic-powered weapon might have made people curious about its strength. Theo skips any declared tests that use it immediately. They were confident it outperformed regular cannons. With one button press, the magic cannon fired a real wind light blast that hit the approaching earth dragons. A massive explosion struck Gulf Theria. The blast stunned everyone, even Lauren, who was clearly impressed. The O2 was amazed by its power. A villager confirmed the earth dragons were destroyed, igniting celebrations. Aisha and the evacuated villagers hear the cheers. They felt confident they were safe. As the dust settled, countless wyverns appear. Theo glared at Lauren, who realized he wasn't to blame. If it wasn't Lauren, Theo wondered what was stirring in the land of death. An even bigger problem was that the magic cannon needed time to recharge, and regular cannons couldn't stop the wyverns. Layla and Luna stepped forward. Eager to fight and insisting it was their moment, they faced the wyverns calmly. Layla said it had been ages since she fought dragon-like creatures. Luna said she hadn't exercised lately. The old man was grateful he had kept them close earlier. He asked him to fend off doubts without pushing himself too hard. The magic cannon would take 10 minutes to recharge. He commanded the soldiers to ready additional cannons. Warren grew agitated and asked if Thea knew how many wyverns there were. He urged them to escape. Layla and Luna urged him to stay calm, determined to defeat all wyverns within 10 minutes. They jumped off the wall. Luna turned her hands into Fenrir paws. Layla drew her sword. He told Lauren that wyverns were deadly in flight. Shark claws, sharp teeth, and fire breath. He noted they had an extra-rank adventurer and a Fenrir on their side. Layla and Luna quickly took down most of the wyverns. The Abast and the others were the village's mightiest warriors. Learned watched awestruck. Soon the last wyverge fell like lifeless insects. Luna was a little annoyed that it took longer than expected. Layla teased Sheets and has slain one more wyvern than Luna. We ended up muttering about Layla's competitive streak. Claiming she did not care about being the prince's main wife, Layla grew flustered and said she had no such relationship with the prince. Then Luna complained about fighting with more weapons without using her full strength. Layla asked what she was trying to say. More wavering shapes came from another direction. The deeper understanding. Even Luna felt something was wrong in the land of death. Too far from the village, they could not get back in time. Panicking, Theo ordered the regular cans to fire. They couldn't hit the flying enemies. The magic cannon was still unfinished. When Justice Theothod became lost, a juror appeared and told him to leave it to her. A single mighty swing of her sword split the wyverns in half with ease. Everyone was shocked, most of all Theo. Once you recognize her technique. The girl faces Theo. They said it had been a while. After searching for Theo, Alice revealed herself. Theo asked why she was there, and she said she had heard about his banishment and thought he might be lonely and upset. Theo clarified was not crying, but he thanked her for her concern. Alice quickly insisted she hadn't come out because she was worried at that moment. Layla and Luna arrived, curious about the impressive attack. Layla froze when she saw Alice. Alice was just as surprised to see Layla. Begin with plain, sincere thanks to Alice for her help, then approach Theo, offering to accept trouble for failing to defeat the wyverns, even beginning to undress to atone physically. Though hurriedly stopped Layla, telling her she had already done enough and urging her to redress. Luna then hugs Theo. She playfully demands a reward for her efforts. Hi, Shep here. They hugged Theo and thanked him for keeping everyone safe. Frozen, Alice noticed two more jurors beside Layla. She looked around and saw a bustling village crowded with people. Her plan to comfort a lonely Theo is shattered. Alice fell to her knees and Theo asked what was wrong. Afterward, she went to the village hot springs, a rumbling feeling that her dream of a simple, joyful life with Theo was ruined. Martina grew tired of Alice's constant complaints, but san hustler. Alice traveled to the land of death only to have her hope put away, and Theo was too busy gathering dragon materials for them to spend time together. Even so, the girls were surprised to find a pleasant bath in the land of the dead. Marina said it was the biggest surprise. No one would expect the exiled prince to have such a talent. Knowing Theo's autocraft ability, Alice wasn't surprised and admitted she hadn't told them before, saying Theo was born with the gift. She remembered that he had confided in her when they were children. Assuming everyone already knew, and relieved that she no longer had to keep it secret, she relaxed. Layla appeared, stunned to learn Alice had known Theo's secret the whole time. Alice saw Layla's reaction and realized Layla hadn't known. Leafly, Alice teased Layla boasted that Theo trusted her most, and the others were amused by their leader's immaturity. After bathing, the three girls do not get caught. The Orivd compliment their appearance. Alice asked whether he had finished collecting the materials. Theo confirmed he had, and the girls were amazed at how many there were. Alice was not surprised and expected plenty from the land of death. Theo admitted that defeating the monsters had been difficult and doubted that they should celebrate. He asked about the open-air baths, and Alice said they were very pleasant. Scrutinizing Theo, Alice noticed he had grown taller since their last meeting 2 years earlier. She had expected him to look downcast, but he was full of life. At first, Theo confessed he feared banishment, but living in the land of death proved a wise choice. Alice from Marquis looked healthier than you did in the capital. Theo, please note that Alice had become even prettier. She blushed and scolded him for getting cocky just because he'd grown. Theo insisted he was just being honest. Santa cut in and explained that Alice was simply shy. Sound revealed that when Alice learned of Theo's banishment, she panicked and raced to rescue him because she loved him. Alice quickly fell asleep on Rena's face. Santa warned her not to say such things, and then told Theo how Alice's actions had caused them trouble. Although Alice begged him to stop, Santa said she had even punched needles. Marina and a shocked Alice went to such lengths. It was clear to her that Alice cared for Theo, and Theo agreed, knowing the risks Alice faced. Alice admitted she couldn't control herself and became furious at Neil's mock Theo. Theo blushed slightly, took Gallus' hand, and thanked her for defending him. Feeling shy, Alice wondered why he held her hand. Marina and Santa cheered and urged Alice to go to Kasham. Alice gazes at Theo earnestly. You realize she was serious. Just then, Routender Lauren appeared and asked for their attention. Theo was especially startled to see him bound up. Theo asked right away what had happened. Lauren said the villagers blamed him for attracting the earth dragons and demanded he make amends. Lauren shifted her focus and proposed selling the dragon materials in bulk to the Bastia company. Allison snapped, explaining how valuable dragon materials were. Use tough scales for armor, claws and fangs for weapons, and dragon blood for potent medicines. Lauren would have already calculated. It tilted and dropped into abacus. He uses his foot to complete his figures. He presented the amount, saying it covered the cost of materials. Alice, trembling, said the money could build several grand mansions, but Lauren said it still wasn't enough. Thea said he planned to sell only half the materials, and a stunned Alice listened as Theo explained he had collected more than he needed and couldn't use the rest. Lauren offered a higher price, but Theo accepted the standard rate instead. Thea requested materials equal to the remaining funds. Amazement filled Warren. They did not expect someone as young as Theo to understand the currency's weakness in the land of death. Lauren agreed and Theo said he needed iron. The conversation stopped when Alice's stomach rumbled. Blushing, she admitted she hadn't eaten on her way to Theo. Theo is hungry too. It was noted that the food was likely ready. When Lauren asked, Theo invited him to join and said they would eat dragon meat. Theo began the victory feast by raising his mug. As everyone cheered along, Aisha and Layla have arrived with the main dishes for the banquet. They made several dishes from dragon meat that looked more like treasure than food. Villagers eager to taste dragon meat licked their lips at the feast. Theo started the meal by taking the first bite. His eyes light up as he praises the flavor. After eating only vegetables in the land of death until now, the meat is even more delightful. Concerned, Alice asked if the meat was safe. In the land of deaths, toxic air can make dragon meat dangerous. Thea said it was safe because he had purified it with his divine hoe, which removed the poison, and Alice added that only Thea would use human meat. Theo encouraged Alice to try the meat despite her hesitation. Taking a bite, she paused, swept up by the soaring wings of wyverns. The rich, tender flavor overwhelmed her. She admired how perfectly it was prepared. Theo credited Layla's May team for the dish's success. Alice was curious and asked about the team. Nearby, Layla was screening the maids, letting only those who passed serve. Theo noted they might be tougher than regular soldiers. Later that night, the Fenrir pups joined the feast. Lauren pays his respects to Luna with an expensive bottle of wine. Hishikit is refilling drinks for everyone. Everyone at the Asat is enjoying themselves. Alice teased him about being too serious. He joked he wouldn't grow any taller unless he ate more. She tried to feed him. Layla stepped in and warned Alice she would stunt her growth without rest. Alice snapped at Layla, telling her not to spoil her moment with Theo. But Layla handed dragon stew to Theo, ignoring her. Frustrated, Alice claws at Theo and tells Layla to back off. Layla tugged Theo away, saying she was protecting the prince from nuisances, and had already won his affection. Stunned and furious, Alice demanded details of their relationship and called them brazen while Thea calmed her and explained the situation. Eventually, Alice understood how to gain favor but remained upset, especially about women's involvement with a beast. Boldly, she said she would be fine being favored to Ko too, startling Theo until he blushed. Layla aimed a butter knife at Alice's throat on someone else's orders. Alice challenged Layla to fight. Layla said fighting her would be like a child against an adult. Alice said Layla was giving up and thanked her sarcastically. They argued about who was more mature, pinning Theo between them. Clearly exasperated, the O shouted at them to stop. On the walls, Jack and Villager kept watch. Some villagers wanted more drag from me. Jack reminded them to stay alert for threats. Isha arrived expecting they would be hungry and thanked them for their efforts. Villagers hailed her as their goddess. She asked Jack to join, but he declined. Sweat broke out when he noticed something odd. Shocked, Jack urged Isha to alert the media immediately. She rose to the banquet, announcing the approach of another monster. The stunned asked what type it was. Aisha said it was a lone monster. At first they were relieved that Thea thought one was easier to manage than a dragon horde. Ishak clarified that it was a mountain-sized turtle. Sweating, the old man could not imagine facing a calamity-class monster. With his autocrat skill, he made a white word from iron and glass and a non-permanent marker from dye, water, cotton, and wood. Santa was amazed that the pen produced ink without being dipped. Martina marveled at how easily the writing disappeared, almost like magic. She called it the magic pen and Santa agreed. The OASD said they could begin the meeting. After apologizing, Santa officially opened the discussion about the stubborn turtle. A calamity-class monster is heading for the village and will arrive by noon at its current pace. Santa said it lived up to its name. The adamant turtle was massive, with a shell as hard as the rare mineral adamant, and she noted that swords and cannons would be useless, while its rapid healing made it feel like fighting a mountain. Even though the topic was serious, Santa's sketches of the monster looked oddly adorable, she warned that even Alice, Lela, Luna, and the magic cannon would have trouble damaging the turtle. Her drawings of the trio looked like manga characters. She described the turtle's attack as a powerful mana blast. The group found her sketches so charming they joked they would not mind being hit by the blast. Sana quickly wiped the drawings away and said the turtle's attack gave them a chance to strike back, dismaying the others and puzzling Santa. Theo urged us to continue. San said the monster was vulnerable only while it attacked. She suggested firing the magic cannon into its mouth right then. The sketch grew gruesome, showing the turtle bursting apart from the inside. She said attacking it from within could defeat it. Alice noticed that despite Sona's love of cute things, mercenary work had made her numb to gore. Thea knew they had to provoke the turtles into attacking first. Son agreed but warned the magic cannon might not work and advised evacuating the villagers as a precaution. The turtles' attack destroyed the village. Theo approved assigning the maid team to oversee the evacuation and ordered soldiers to prepare the defenses. Everyone is springing into action. Theo set a trap to slow the monster. He used his autocrat skill to excavate excavated earth and store it in his inventory to form a pitfall. He placed spikes along the bottom to trap the turtle, then reinforced the village walls, turning them into a massive defensive wall. After one last use, off-white and exhausted, the O had depleted his magic power and collapsed. Hanuking woke at dawn and was surprised to find himself resting on Alice's lap. She explained she let him rest there to prevent aches from the hard ground. After beating Layla at rock, paper, scissors, she claimed the privilege. Allison urged him to rest more, pointing out how hard he had worked on the trap. When Theosine drained, Alice offered to let him stay on her lap and told him he'd done enough. Theo tried to excuse himself to go to work, but Alice tapped him gently and urged him to rest. She reprimanded him for pushing himself too hard, a warning that it could kill him, as it had in his past life. The O, feeling remorseful, apologized for always relying on her help. Alice replied that Theo had helped her the most. "I'm confused about the OASD win." Alice said he was oblivious, remembering when she received her hero power at 8. Her account showed how it changed her life. Suitable candidates received the hero's power regardless of status. As the diner owner's daughter, Alice was stunned to find herself a hero. Being taken to the castle at a young age upended her life. She went through tough training alongside adults. The trainer often hit her, yelling that she had to work for the kingdom. All recipients of the hero power were enrolled in the castle program. Alice trains in swordsmanship, magic, and tactics. It was more brainwashing than training to turn her into a living weapon called a hero. As young Alice explored the castle corridors, people murmured, urging one another to stay on the hero's good side. It occurred to her that they might not have realized her enhanced hearing picked up their whispers. Alone in the garden, she muttered that there wasn't a single kind soul in the castle. The only sounds were talk of the hero and empty praise. Thinking back, no one had used her real name since she arrived. They saw her only as a hero and a tool, not as a person. She remembered serving cheerful patrons as a tavern juror at her parents' diner. Those memories brought quiet tears and a deep longing for her old home. She remembered Theo, who helped her through those tough times. He was the first to approach her, call her by her real name, and offer a handkerchief for her tears. Alice saw Theosar as a real person, not just a hero. Too shy to speak then. Now she wanted to thank him sincerely. Because of him, she could remain true to herself. Theodown played along, saying he had no friends besides her. Alice teased that while she had mastered the sword, Thoud had mastered loneliness. Theo replied that his mother was still in Galen. Suddenly Alice grew serious and suggested they act before facing the turtle. She mentioned the favor they had discussed the night before. Shyly is asking if Theo would share it with her. Stunned, Theos and Struggle have difficulty responding. After a moment blushing, he asked if Alice understood how a favor was transferred, and Alice said she did, urging him not to misunderstand. Her only reason for offering was that she would feel guilty if Theo died without her help. She asked if he did not want to. He admitted he thought she refused. Alice cut him off and told him to hush. Without stopping, leaning in, she shut him down. Their teeth collided painfully. Alice persisted, teaching him again more carefully. After a short pause, she kissed him again. Theo now has Keisha's 3 girls. He noticed Alice blush. She playfully called Theo a pervert for blushing, unlike other single viewers, and he replied that she looked like a boiled octopus. Alice explained she was only transferring a favor and nothing else. Thea shyly thanked her. Alice paused, then apologized for lying. Her touch flustered him as she leaned closer. Alice admitted she'd always dreamed of sharing this moment with him. Theo blushed deeper as Alice stood and said they were done for now. She told him to continue after the battle. Theo asked what she meant by continue. Alice warned him that he had better survive or she would be furious, and that made him more determined. Theo vowed to win by her side. Alice beamed with obvious pleasure. Before long, the village gates looked like Titan-proof walls. Layla praised Theo and said they had nothing to fear. Alice complained about Theo working too hard. He reminded her they faced a calamity-class monster. Remembering the heat, he asked Martina to upgrade the magic cannon. Martina brimmed with excitement over the magic cannon, and Theo talked like a devoted fan of magical gadgets. He demanded her focus, catching the mage off guard. Asked about the progress of the upgrades, Martina reported improvements in range, explosive force, and reload speed per Theo's wishes. She admitted she may have overdone it, but she also adjusted the cans to hold more magic sight shards and improve efficiency. Theo thanked her for her work. Martina warned the increased power could overload and explode. Thea said she had made it a risky weapon. He thanked her, stressing how crucial the cannon would be for the coming battle, and Martina blushed, downplayed her role, and slipped away. The Ascents saw that she was dodging him. Luna arrived and teased Theo for being a ladies' man. Theo insisted everyone was simply kind, and Luna called him clueless. She asked if he was all right and didn't need her to fight. Theo brought up Layla's comment that Luna had limited strength. Luna confirmed, warning that using her divine power would attract an even worse nuisance. The other man tasked her with guarding the villagers, a role only she could fill, and Luna asked what he meant. Her face went pale at the sight of a massive wheeled house. Theo said the underground shelter would not hold against the stubborn turtle, so he built a mobile refuge. He asked Luna to take it to safety. When the turtle attack began, she agreed that only she could handle the job. She vowed to protect the villagers as they requested. This is the Authanctor. You've arrived reading the adamant turtle. Theo admitted he was nervous, and San understood as they faced a calamity-class foe. Theo tried to understand why a typically docile creature attacked. Adamant turtles only strike when provoked. Sana shared Martinez's crucial discovery. Martina examines the wyverns. Traces of a mind control spell were found. Theo froze. Santa suspected the earth dragons, and likely the adamant turtle were enchanted the same way. Theo realized his village was being deliberately targeted. Sana realized mind control spells needed enormous mana and rare items, meaning world-level wealth was required. Keeping the adamant turtle under control drained massive resources. Senna suspected the orchestrator would not stop at one beast. That suggests it could be their final monster battle. Listening to Sana during the era-called video game boss fights, he realized his pounding heart came from excitement, not fear. Reluctant to admit it, he looked forward to the clash. A determined turtle plodded toward the village. The Ostad made by the magic cannon. Be ready to hold the colossal beast first. The ground split under the turtle's weight and thundered, tumbling into a pit of spikes. Ochird's trap succeeded, sending the signal for all cannons to fire. The cannonball exploded against the trapped turtle. Theo hoped the relentless barrage would force its mouth open for a long-range strike. Next, he would fire the magic cannon into its mouth, destroying it from within. The turtle began to raise its legs. Urgently, Sen warned that Theo was climbing out. Shocked, Theo had expected the pit to hold longer. They still had more strategies ready. Alice and Layla was ready to act. Layla told Alice she would not be a burden. Alice shot back, asking who Layla thought she was addressing. They take their positions and unleash their signature moves. A massive X-shaped sword slash formed from their combined attack. The blow hit the monster, slicing its front left leg and drawing blood. The girls ordered the turtle to stay down. Its injured leg made the pit its grave. The turtle fell back into the trap. Theo, pleased by their success, ordered the soldiers to keep up the barrage. Once the weapons were reloaded, cannons resumed pounding the adamant turtle. It finally exhausted its tolerance. It let out a thunderous roar. Sound said it was preparing to attack. Theo realized this was their moment. The turtle opened its mouth and charged a long-range blast. Instead, it was shockingly aimed downward at Alice and Layla. Nobody saw this coming. The oak couldn't aim at its mouth, and the girls were now in its line of fire. The girls felt the turtle's anger directed at them. Alice came up with a quick plan. He leaps high and taunts the beast. She struck its chin with her sword. She shouted to get its attention. That left its mouth open for Theo's shot. Alice stood directly in the magic cannon's path. Without warning, Alice vanished. Theo gasped. Layla had quickly pulled her to safety. Alice was amazed, and Layla understood her intent. She admitted she feared Alice planned a sacrificial strike. Acting quickly, Theo fired the magic cannon. Its blast was far more powerful than before. The shot meant for the earth dragon's past and hit its mark. The stubborn turtle's insides erupted with a deepening boom. The massive beast hit the ground with a heavy thud. Santa cheered and claimed victory as the turtle fell. Theo and the villagers burst into celebration. Alice and Layla tapped their sword hilt as a sign of mutual respect. Santa was amazed that they had defeated a calamity-class monster. They thanked Sana for her strategic plans. She gave the team credit for its effort. Theo asked where Allison and Layla were, and Santa pointed to a rock where the girls stood watching him. Theo wondered when they'd moved there, and Santa noted how fast they were. Then the turtle's eyes glowed as if it were still alive. It emerged from the ground. Theo was stunned that it had survived the magic cannon. Both Lala and Alice were surprised by its resilience. The turtle roared as it struggled to escape the pit. Thea realized it had grown cautious and was unlikely to open its mouth again. All it did was charge the village with its mountain-like bulk. The reinforced wall Theos had built protected the village, but he doubted it would hold. The wall collapsing would kill soldiers. The village would be ruined. With the O's scrambling for a plan, he noticed debris shifting beneath the monster. Without warning, he called the Fenrir pups by name. They arrived quickly. They asked for a favor, handing each note to be delivered to Luna and Aisha. At the same time, he asked Silk to carry him under the turtle. Feeling anxious, Sana asked what he planned, and Theo told her to take charge while he was away. He left with the Silk without explaining. He left Sana unpuzzled. Deep down, they trusted the outward triumph. At last, she understood why her leader trusted him so much. Alice fiercely focused her heroic skills on one of the giant turtle's legs. Layla struck another leg. Despite their determined efforts, they found their attacks did almost no damage. The turtle got out of the pit because they couldn't stop it in time. Alice grew irritated as the huge creature kept shrugging off their attacks. Layla said their strikes were probably just mosquito bites and suggested they try combining their attacks again. Just as they tried to move, the stubborn turtle spotted them and moved as if it could bite or swallow them. That wasn't its real purpose. It opened its jaws instead, ready for another explosive blast. The girls quickly realized the turtle would blow itself up and take them with it. Layla realized this was probably a clever tactic, as the turtle used its tough body and regenerative powers while protecting its mouth from further magical strikes. Alice knew it would be hard to beat such a crafty turtle. Layla pulled Alice back. Knowing they had to flee quickly, she asked Alice to guard her as. She carried her and Alice agreed, unsure if they could get away in time. Theo suddenly interrupted them, shouting for them to duck. Using his autocraft ability, he created a massive spear that shot up from the ground and pierced the turtle beneath his chin. The turtle's pent-up energy burst out. This caused its mouth to explode and injure it. Theo called out cheerfully to the girls to see if they were safe. Frustrated, the girls demanded an explanation for why Theo was fighting on the front lines. He said the adamant turtle had become more cautious, so the magic cannon no longer worked. He said he had found another way to defeat it. After closely examining the creature, he urged the girls to check the turtle's undersides. At last, the girls noticed cracks in its shell. Convinced the magic cannon caused those fractures, Theo knew they had to hit that weak spot with a strong blow to defeat the turtle. Alice understood what was needed. Theo warned her to hold off. Even though Alice was their strongest fighter, he doubted she could shatter that spot on her own. The Aw then revealed a strategy he had devised. Once it's outlined, the girls see the risk the plan poses to Theo. Alice said they did not have enough team members to carry it out. Theoria reassured them not to worry, saying help was on the way. Just then, Luna arrived and apologized for being late. Luna said the villagers felt safe with Gorm. After reading Theo's letter, she said she was impressed by his clever ideas, and Theo thanked her for coming. Layla pointed out Luna's limited combat skills and doubted how much she could contribute. Luna acknowledged her current limitations. She explained she had brought Sana along to help. Theo was thrilled to see Sana. Santa still grumbled about their rough treatment of her. When Santa arrived, Alice said they had enough people but were still one short. The O told her he had already arranged the final piece. He turned to the giant turtle and said it was time to launch their ultimate plan.